this video, we'll be talking about tuplets and creating different groove ideas with them. Stay until the end for my favorite one, and make sure you download the MIDI and loops from the description. Let's get started. Tuplets are just a different way to subdivide the beat. We are very used to subdividing into 8th notes, 16th notes, or even 32nd notes. Let's hear a sample of 8ths and 16ths. The beat was split into 2 or 4 even notes. Now let's hear some tuplet examples for comparison. In what we just heard, we broke down the beat into triplets, quintuplets, or septuplets, groupings of 3, 5, and 7. Hopefully you were able to hear and most importantly feel the difference in between all the different subdivisions. Let's take a listen to some musical applications. Three completely different feels and vibes, and they're just perfect examples of how you can apply tuplets to create new and interesting grooves. Let's talk about triplets. Let's set our grid to 8th note triplets, and let's stay in 4/4. Let's not worry about changing to 12/8. Let's add a kick on 1 and 3 and a snare on 2 and 4. Place a hi-hat on all downbeats and the 3rd note of the triplet. Do that same pattern all throughout the bar. Let's take some time and adjust velocities. And let's see what we got so far. We have a shuffle groove. Now let's change it up a bit. Let's move all snares to count 3. And let's leave a kick on the last triplet of the measure. Bring the velocity down off the 1st note. And now let's see what that sounds like. And that's a halftime shuffle. One of my all-time favorite grooves. Let's get another idea out there. In the musical example, you listen to the snares back to 2 and 4 and kick on 1 and 3. Let's copy and paste all of that and leave only the downbeats of the hi-hat, except for this note right here. And let's move some of these notes around. Something I like to do is place every other triplet to create a polyrhythm. Adjust some velocities, a quick fill, and let's hear what that sounds like. Nothing too wild. Although it's an odd grouping, we're pretty comfortable with triplets. Now let's move on. Quintuplets. This one you might not be so familiar with. Let's set our basic kick snare groove. The hi-hat will be dictating the quintuplet shuffle. Let's hold down Command E and use the up arrow to get to 5. Now we have 5 notes per beat. Let's deactivate the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 5th note of the quintuplet. And let's do that all across the bar. Copy and paste, and let's take a listen. different than the triplet shuffle, but let's take it up a notch. Following the same steps as before, let's create our quintuplet grid. Bring the grid down to snare and kick. The pattern will focus mostly on hi-hat and snare. Being a drummer, I think of the hat as the right hand and the snare as the left hand. This is the pattern I came up with. It's a halftime groove, so the backbeat will be on count 3. Add a simple kick pattern, not too busy, because there's already enough happening with the snare and hat. Program a fill and let's see what we got. Interesting in my opinion than if you were to just program a 16th note groove. Septuplets. Now we're dividing the beat into 7 equally spaced notes. Let's set up a septuplet shuffle. Use Command E and up arrow to get to 7 this time. And that gives us our septuplet grid. For this shuffle, we'll only activate the first and fifth note of the grouping of 7. Do that for the rest of the bar. Add the kick and snare. Let's take a listen. Now let's break down the groove from the musical example. Let's start the same way. Create the grid. I'm not aware of any DAWs that have tuplet grids besides triplets. It would be nice to have that option and not have to do this workaround. We'll keep the hi-hat pretty simple. Just the first and fifth note activated. Let's add an open hat over here. Simple kick pattern. Snare on 2 and 4. Let's add a few ghost notes here and there. And let's add a fill. Now let's take a look at my favorite version. Once again, let's create the grid. We have to do this every time. Let's create the hi-hat and snare interplay. It's a 7-note pattern divided into 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, repeated all across. Simple kick pattern. The note right after the backbeat, move it to a different sound source. In my case, I'm using a clap stack. And that's everything. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and don't forget to download the free loops and MIDI from the description. Until next time.